Hello, singers, and welcome to our second week of Let's Get Singing Again. This week, our vocalises are going to concentrate a little bit more on finding some space in the throat so that we don't squeeze as we're trying to get our range back, and moving air over pressure in order to access both high and low notes. So let's get started. Our first exercise today is what I often refer to as a hot potato hum. Sometimes you might have heard me refer to this as a church yawn space, right? So we are just going to hum, thinking about keeping our teeth apart but our tongue down. We have And when we do the hot potato hum, you might notice that it feels a little bit more like your sounds just in your mouth, which is great. When we're trying to get our voices back in shape, sometimes singing to a placement that we used to find comfortable might be a little bit of an overreach when we're getting our voices back in shape. So just letting it sort of exist, rumbling and rattling around in your mouth is just fine. Let that jaw just come down. As we start approaching this passaggio point for baritones, tenors, you might start to feel your head voice kicking in a little bit more fully than if you were singing an open on the hum. And again, that's wonderful. Let your head voice come to the party. Don't worry about if it feels thin. Even if you flip into falsetto, that is equally fine. We're just working on stretching into the top, so don't try to make it something that it doesn't want to be yet. So just invite all of those higher tones in. Keep your tongue down on that up. And if you don't want to let your head voice or falsetto start to take over and crack through, which is always super fine, you should never worry about cracking. But if you'd rather not adjust for that, then you can just come back down to the bottom and start over. That's such a good middle range exercise. It gets the air moving at a really nice speed without a lot of pressure. Not everybody likes to hum too far up into the upper portion of the range. So if you want to keep that exercise going, you could always switch to a lip trill. So that, or a kazoo. Anything that sort of starts with a little bit of a resistant sound that gets our air moving before we open up to. So our second exercise is a basic triad and a 5-note scale. So we have an SH, like sh, that we're going to start with. So basically it's sh, that for just a few patterns and then come on back down. We're going to voice that SH, which is not a sound that we really have in our English language. It's a French sound like je. So if you go sh and you just add sound to it, j, you're going to end up with like jusqu'à, that kind of sound. That's the resistance sound that we're going to use to help reinvigorate our breath support. So we're going to do it takes a little bit of effort from your breath support mechanism. Hopefully you'll feel some of this effort coming from down below your belly button in the foundation of your core. It always amazes me how much air I use on that zh sound. So if you feel like you're running out of air, that's totally fine. Don't compromise the exercise. You can try to take a fuller breath, or you can maybe be okay with running out, which is always acceptable, or take a little tiny breath between the zh and the if you need to. The most important thing is to not compromise the technique because you're worried about running out of air. That's okay. Couple more. Our third exercise is a descending triad and scale. We're going to build up some breath pressure right behind a B. So we want our lips to sort of feel rubbery and elastic. We don't want to hold it tight. We want it to kind of B, B, B. So your lips are nice and loose. And the exercise is ba, 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 ba. And again, don't worry about what you sound like. It doesn't matter. We're just working on breath and a release of pressure. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Switch into chest voice whenever you feel like it, altos and sopranos. Ba, 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 ba. Couple more. Alrighty, so we are going to look at exercise number 4. We're going to build intervals from do to mi, then do mi so, and then the full arpeggio of do mi so mi do. We're just going to build this from I have 2 options for you to work with here, from our narrow round oo into our narrow bright e. So we're just really moving the tongue an itty bitty bit to get from U to E without overthinking the sound of it, where you just want to make the vowel correctly. Or you can open up more and go from O to A. I will do U to E. And again, there's not really any like perfect way to do this. We're not thinking about what it sounds like. We're just working on a consistent breath flow. As we at an interval, we don't want to change what we're doing. We want to be consistent. So thinking out with the sound rather than up with the pitch. I should go a little faster. And I don't really think about the tempo of the eighth notes either. Sometimes I speed them up and slow them down. About the oo, that we want a true oo that comes forward, not one that is oo but oo, and that the E is made by the sides of the tongue going up to the molar. The front of the tongue sort of just stays in that slope and does not get involved. And trust your oo. Don't try to open it. You don't need to open an oo up at the top. It will change in your personal soundscape, how you hear it in your head, but you don't have to adjust for it. It will just feel thinner. So you can just run out of air. The more open version of it, if I just back up a few steps, we have sorry. I have no air today. See, but I'm okay with it. I also need to get back in shape. So a little higher. I think that's important to note that I'm also back on my vocal rehabilitation journey right along with you. So I'm happy to let my flaws all hang out so that we're in it together. A couple more half steps up just for the O and ah, so you can feel the difference. I'll have to work on that. And you might notice that I kind of kept my jaw, I held it down just a little bit to remind ourselves that we don't want to hold our jaw up for too tight. Much better. All right, so I will be back in a second and we're going to go into our next section of looking at On die Musik. So let's spend a little bit more time with On die Musik. Last week I played the accompaniment in C to get you familiarized with that key. Some of you already know this song. Some of you might have gone to YouTube to learn the song a little bit better. This week we are going to use one of our therapeutic exercises from last week in order to work on the melody. And so I have two different straws here. This is from Vocalese number 1 last week where we did the kazoo sound, but I also mentioned that straws are excellent as well. You'll notice that one is a little bit wider than the other. Some of you might find the wider board to be a little bit easier if you have some a little difficulty with the lip tension required to keep the seal around the straw. And we are going to work through this melody on the straw. You'll also notice with the wider straw, I will actually breathe in through the straw as well as sing out through it. So we have... Breathing in through the straw, because it's a smaller hole, requires a little bit more effort of our inhalation muscles in order to get air to move through it. So it's an excellent use of the straw to help us be a little bit more mindful about our breathing and the muscles that we have to engage in order for that to be effective. A little harder when you use a smaller bored straw. The breathing takes a lot longer. It doesn't mean that it can't be effective. I'm going to do it one more time on the smaller straw. I like using the smaller bore a little bit better because I feel like it engages my breath support muscles a little bit more fully. So one more pass. It's an excellent way when we're working on a new song to learn a melody without being very product oriented about what you sound like or the language. If we're just working on notes, the straw is a really great mediary tool for just learning pitches. The other thing I want to show you is how to transfer this behavior of using the straw into something that is a little bit more fully voiced. So often I will, especially when I'm using a straw to fix a behavior or just simply get back in shape, I will do every other phrase, one with the straw, one without, or sometimes I will just simply release the straw and move into an up position, which is what I'm going to do now. The goal is always consistency. So moving from how I'm using my breath with the straw, how I'm managing my breath support with the straw, keeping that behavior going when I release the straw to just sort of segue into a neutral vowel without changing my behavior in any way, not changing what's going on in the throat, in the vocal tract, just letting everything be open and being okay with whatever is coming out of me in that moment. So those are your ways into your melody this week. Oh, by the way, if you're just not you don't have straws laying around, you can always just do kazoo. That's not that's certainly a good substitute for using the straw. Just remember, as you're going up into the upper pitches, though you don't need to open, you don't need to modify in order to access those other pitches. Uh, don't let a vowel hold your voice hostage. The other thing you could do is a lip trill. Some people love that. I love also raspberry. Raspberry is excellent for those of us who harbor a little tongue tension or jaw tension, to try to keep all of the vibrations of the raspberry the same. And not have it speed up as we go higher. So those are all great tools into the melody. Don't be too product oriented about the song just yet. Just enjoy transferring the information from the vocalises over to the song. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.